Hey guys, I'm Sankalpita and you're watching BookGeeks India, which is a channel where I make book-related videos. If you like books, if you love reading, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like and share my videos, turn that notification on. And guys, please do comment because you know it that I love it when you comment. In this video, I bring to you my February reading wrap-up. Now, I know that I've not been uploading any videos from a really long time. I think it's almost been a month since I last put up a video. The last video that I put up was also a reading wrap up. So I was not making videos, but I was definitely reading, I was definitely blogging. And that's the reason I come to you today with my monthly reading wrap up. I read 12 books in the month of February. Now, some of these books were Kindle editions, which I downloaded through my Kindle Unlimited subscription. Some of these books were review copies which were sent to me by publishers, by authors, and some of these books were my own picks, from my own libraries, books that I really wanted to read. So if you have been watching my reading wrap up from the last couple of months, you know that I always talk about the books that I read in a particular month in my order of preference. So the best book comes first and the worst book comes last. And now without any further ado, let's just get into the video. The best book that I read last month was this one, The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Marianne Sheffer and Annie Barrows. It took me a really long time to learn the complete name and also the name of the authors because everything is just a little too complicated, to get it in the first go. So this is a book that I had been planning on reading from a really long time. Like, I saw that there is a movie by this name. I had also seen this book on Bookstagram, on Goodreads, and the last time I got myself a couple of books, I ordered this one as well. And I'm really glad because it turned out to be such a fascinating read. So basically, when I picked this book up, I thought that I'll first read the book and then I'll go and watch the movie. But while I was into it, I just couldn't control myself. Probably I was like 20% in the book and I just couldn't control myself. I went and watched the movie. But I'm just glad that I've read the book also and watched the movie too because I can actually compare the two, which I don't want to do here. But yeah, maybe in a separate video I will do that. So this book is a historical fiction which is set in the aftermath of the World War II. So there is this author who's called Juliet Ashton and she's having a writer's block. Like, the war is gone and people are picking up bits and pieces of their life and trying to put together whatever they have. There is a feeling of positivity in the air, there's a feeling of hope, but Juliet Ashton, the author, is feeling the exact opposite. During the war years, she was a very positive person. Like, she used to write humor and she used to entertain the masses with her humor. But now that the war is over, she is somehow having this writer's block, which changes when she gets a letter from a person in a remote small island of the English Channel. Now this island is called Guernsey and this is where the title of the book comes from. So there is this guy called Mr. Dorsey who writes letters to Juliet, and slowly and steadily they start talking over letters and Juliet gets to know a lot of members of this Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society and she starts interacting with all of them. Finally, these conversations that she's having with all the members of the society leads her to the island itself, and this changes her life in a way she had never imagined. It changes the life of all the people that are spoken about, that are writing these letters in Guernsey. So the story in this book is told entirely by the way of letters, and if you ask me, I absolutely loved this book. I would definitely recommend it to all my viewers, to all my readers. So yeah, if you're looking for a historical fiction, just go and pick this book up today. The next book that I read is also a book which is about the World War II and which is about the Holocaust, but this one is actually a non-fiction. So I was browsing through my Kindle Unlimited section and I came across this book called Among the Reeds by Tammy Botner. This is actually a true story where the author has written about the family that she belongs to, her grandmother's story, her dad's story, and all of the members in her family who have gone through Holocaust and somehow they managed to survive it. It's really heart-rending because when you're reading it, you know that all of it actually happened, all of it was true, and that is what makes this book such a powerful read. If you look at the cover, you might think that it's a boring cover, right? And you might think that the book would also be boring, but trust me, take my word for it, it's a really engrossing read. just because of that one reason. And also because when you read it, it reads like fiction. So even though it is a collective memoir of a family, the storytelling ability of this author is so good that, she manages to just wow the reader and keep them engaged throughout the book. So if you're somebody who read The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank and did not like it, that's okay. But if you pick up this book, you will definitely like it because, as I told you, the storytelling is really good. And honestly, if you ask me, I would definitely recommend this book to all my viewers and all my readers. The next book that I read was also a Kindle edition, and I also picked this book up on Kindle Unlimited. You would think that I'm actually the brand ambassador of Kindle Unlimited because I read so many books in that section. But yeah, it's actually a service which is worth investment because it takes what, like 1800 rupees a year, and then I get to read so many books for free, which is just wonderful because most of these books are very expensive, pretty expensive, and some of these are not even available in India. Like if you want to buy them, you will have to go for the import editions, which I don't think is feasible or pocket friendly at all. I digressed a little, but coming back to the book in question, the third book that I read was M and the Big Home by Jerry Pinto. Now this book won the Hindu Literary Prize for 2012, the Crossword Book Award for Fiction for 2013, and it was also longlisted for the DSC Prize for South Asian Literature. So even if I tell you that book was amazing, you would have already understood that it was, because it's not so much about the plot in this book as it is about the emotions and the way it is expressed. So this book actually talks about mental health. It tells us the story of this family of four: a son, a daughter, a mother, and a father. Now the mother in the story, whom the author calls N, is actually suffering from mental health issues, and it's really bad because she has attempted multiple suicides and she has managed to survive all of them. Despite her maniacal condition, the father of the family, whom the author calls Whom, still manages to stay strong and connect with all the members of the family and manages to keep the family together. So this is the story of a family that are affected by a condition that they cannot change, a condition that they cannot help, and a bond, a relationship which they simply can't cut. And how they managed to stay strong and managed to survive in the Mumbai of 1990s is what this book is all about. Like I told you, there's not much happening in terms of plot here, but the book overall is really good if you are somebody who loves, books about mental health or likes to read fiction about mental health. This is one book that you cannot afford to miss. It's really good. The next book that I read was recommended to me by my Bookstagrammer friend Sudeepta. So this book was shortlisted for the Hindu Literary Prize of 2016, and the author Hansda Soendra Shekhar had also won the Sahitya Akademi Yuva Puraskar for his first book for his debut novel in 2015. So now you know all about the credentials, let's talk about what this book is. So this book is a collection of short stories which are based on the tribal people of Jharkhand. So Jharkhand is a diverse state. It has a lot of tribal people who live in the state and they manage to survive and thrive in the state. So this is a book which talks about the struggles of these people, the situations that they find themselves into, the perseverance, the hard work that they do, and their beautiful tribal culture. I think it's a book that should be read by every Indian just to know how diverse our culture is, how diverse our India is. If I talk about myself, when I first picked this book up, I had no idea, who Santals are, who are the tribals of Jharkhand, and I got to know so much about these people. I think this book presents such a beautiful portrayal of characters. It talks about certain issues which are still troubling the tribals, like untouchability, which is a shame, really a shame. It addresses some deep concerns and some deep biases that are still prevalent, that are still, practiced in Indian society. So you should definitely pick this book up if you are a lover of Indian literature, if you want to know about the beautiful culture India has, and if you want to read a good piece of literature. The next book that I read is called The Great Passage by Shion Miura. So this book has won a literary prize in Japan. I don't know which prize, but it's a prize that I cannot pronounce, and okay, if I find it, I'll put it down. So I came across this book again on my Kindle Unlimited. I was looking for some translations. So this is a Japanese translation. It was translated from Japanese into English because there is this platform called Amazon Crossing which promotes regional translated literature from different parts of the world into English, it translates into English. And that's where I found this book. This is a book which talks about words, it talks about dictionaries, it talks about the beauty of words and how they make life possible. When you read this book, you will understand that life is actually meaningless without words. So there is this guy called Kohei Araki who's kind of fascinated by words. He works at the dictionary department of a publishing house called Gembu Books. Now when he's retiring, he wants to pass on this baton, this responsibility, to a person who's as enthusiastic, as passionate about words, just as he is. So he finds this guy called Mitsuya Majime, whom he sees in his own reflection. He knows that Majime is a guy who can actually carry this work forward. And so starts the journey of the Great Passage, which is actually the dictionary which they are compiling. So this book is the story of Majime, of Araki, and of a lot of people who pool in their resources, their time, their effort, and in fact their everything into making this dictionary, the Great Passage, come true. And it's a really good book, but it's a little slow, it's a little dull, and it loses pace in the betweens. But otherwise it's a brilliant read, especially for people who love words and who love books basically. The next book that I read is this one, Investment, Risk and Growth by R.K. Mohapatra. This is actually a review copy which was sent to me by the author. So I come from a finance background, and that is the reason I agreed to take this review copy. So this book talks to us about the various investment options which are available to us as an individual based on our risk appetite, based on the time period that we are looking at, based on our financial muscle, and based on what kind of returns we are looking at. So this book actually gives a very comprehensive view of all the options that are available today. It's a good book, especially for me, because I got to learn so much about the things that I had read about in my college, and with updated information, because whatever I read was a long time back, and of course taxes change, new acts come in, and new provisions and new exemptions come in. So yeah, it was a wonderful read for me, but I cannot say so for everyone. The next book that I read is also on Kindle. I read a lot of Kindle books last month. So this is called After Annihilation. It's written by an Indian author called Gauri Mittal. So I found this book on Kindle, and I saw that it is actually a post-apocalyptic book which talks about life in the aftermath of a nuclear attack. So I was like intrigued, interested, and I saw that it is actually based in the year 2034. So I thought, why not? Let's just go and see what this book is all about. So I downloaded it. So it tells us the story of these 5 friends who have just graduated out of college and are looking to set out to venture in their careers, and they're looking forward to it. And just like that, a nuclear war happens in a country called Idis, which is actually based on India, because all the characters are also kind of Indian. So there is this country called Idis who suffers from a nuclear war, and the protagonist of the story is a girl called Madhavi, who somehow by sheer luck manages to evade the nuclear attack and is saved. Subsequently, she is also rescued by a team of people who have gotten together to rescue people in the aftermath. And now she's led to this city, this designated nuclear sanctuary called Shunya. So Madhavi lands in Shunya, and whatever happens later is the story of this book. So what I like is, of course, it's a new concept. I don't see many Indian authors writing about such fiction or such scenarios. But what I did not like is that I was expecting a lot of survival battle, a lot of survival struggles. But this book has a lot of cliches. Like, it has a love triangle, it has a lot of drama, it has a lot of socio-political struggles, political power struggles. So I had like mixed feelings about it, and the writing also did not do it for me. So I was expecting a really fast-paced book, but it kind of slows down in the middle, which is something that I did not like, and that is the reason this book features like here in my list. The next book that I read is this one, 30 Plus Everything, Tales of a Woman in Her 30s by Mridula A.M. So this book was sent to me by the author, and it's a really thin read, as you can see. It's a non-fiction, a kind of memoir plus rantings plus a lot of observations that the author has in her daily life. So basically all the chapters are written from the perspective of a woman doctor, of a woman who's working and managing her house. simultaneously, and of a woman who's in her 30s. And these essays are written with just the right amount of humor in them. So I actually liked reading it. It did not have a lot of content, as you can see, but it was decent enough for me to enjoy it. The next book that I read is also about medical college, about doctors, and with a bit of humor. So this is Dissected by Naveen Kakkar. This book actually tells us the story of 50 odd individuals who get themselves joined into a medical college in Damsar. Yes, it's Damsar. So there is this medical college and 50 people have come and joined it, and this is the story of their first term. Now the thing that sets this book apart from other books that I've read recently is that it doesn't have a central character. So this book is actually the story of these 50 individuals, but very little focus is given to a few characters. And that is something that I did not like in this book, because as a reader you really need to get invested into a certain character or characters, but this was not the case with this book. So we do get to know a lot about how medical colleges are. Now the fun thing about this book is that it is set in a time when there was no mobile, there was no internet, so it's a world really different from our world today, and that is something that you should definitely look forward to in this book. I have already reviewed this book on my blog, so you can go and check that out. But yeah, overall for me it was an okay read. The next book that I read is also a review copy, and this was called Don't Let the Kitten Drive the Car by Akanksha Sharma. So this is basically the story of the friendship of these two individuals. One is a beautiful, gorgeous, and very innocent young girl of 10 years who's also blind, and she goes to this regular school. This girl is called Akriti, and she's a very well behaved kid. So we get to know the story from her point of view, what her struggles are as a blind girl in a regular place in a regular school. And we also get to know a lot about cats. So what are cats like, what do they like, what they don't like. So this girl Akriti has a beautiful cat called Simba, who's the most notorious and fun cat ever. And this is a really good story, but I think it's a book meant for children because it doesn't have a lot going on in terms of plot, and that was my only complaint with this book. So yeah, if you're a child, or if you know somebody who loves cats as pets, I'm sure they would love to read this book. The next book that I read was also on my Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, you would think that I read a lot of Kindle Unlimited books. Yes, that's true. So I found this book called The Sickness by Stephen R. King, and I've never ever read a Stephen King book before. So when I first saw this book, I thought it is the Stephen King, but I was really wrong. So when I downloaded this book and I started reading it, it turned out to be something really different. So I went to the internet and I searched, and I figured out, no, these two people are different. Stephen King and Stephen R. King are two different people, and supposedly they write really differently, because I have not read the real Stephen King. So the blurb of the book says that it is a collection of 6 really scary short stories, but the stories are not at all scary, and that was the only issue that I had with this book. Because when you say in the blurb that this is probably the most shocking and darkest short story collection, it is supposed to be that. And when it isn't, well, you are disappointed. So was the case with me. I did not like this book, and let's talk about the next book and the last book and the worst book that I read. So this is the worst book that I read in February. It's a really short read. It's just 34 pages long. So this book is called The Bond and the 7 Same Faces of Human by Vimal KS. Now, it's not so much about the story. The story is also like mediocre, but it is about the characters, their actions, their impractical decisions, and the whole point of it. Like, there are so many things that you would find in this book that would just not make sense. And the worst part of this book was the writing, the editing. So there was not even a single paragraph without editing mistakes, and when I say mistakes, it is serious mistakes which cannot be ignored at all. So when you have a single page which has like 10 mistakes, it is really difficult for you to like this book. And That's the reason I did not like this book at all. So guys, these were the 12 books that I read in the month of February. Do let me know which were the books that you read, and which books were your favorite, which was your worst book in the month of February, and what are you reading in March, what are you reading currently. Let me know all of it in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like, also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until the next video, which will be pretty soon. Bye.